Criminalistics, an introduction into forensic science as part of our college forensic science introduction course. Now we're looking at chapter 5, death investigation. How fascinating. Scene investigation. A critical phase of the death investigation will be a preliminary reconstruction of events that preceded the onset of death, so all significant details of the scene must be recorded. Blood spatter and blood flow patterns must be documented. Anytime marks or shoe prints must be documented. Fingerprints must be processed and collected. Evidence discarded, dropped, or cast off by a perpetrator must be collected. Weapons fired, bullets, and casings are collected and documented. Photographs must always be taken before the scene is altered in any way. The autopsy. An autopsy, in its broadest definition, is simply the examination of the body after death, a post-mortem examination. The goal of a forensic medico-legal autopsy is to determine the cause of death and confirm the manner of death, often to be used in criminal proceedings. Evidence from the autopsy. The medical examiner or coroner carefully examine the victim to establish a cause and manner of death. Tissues and organs may be retained for pathological and toxicological examination. Arrangements must be made between the examiner and investigator to secure a variety of items that may be obtainable from the body for laboratory examination. The following may be collected and sent to the forensic laboratory, including the victim's clothing, fingernail scrapings, combines from hair and pubic hairs, buccal swab for DNA typing purposes, vaginal, anal, and oral swabs in sex-related crimes, recovered bullets from the body, hand swabs from shooting victims for gunshot residue analysis, swabs of body areas suspected of being in contact with DNA arising from touching or saliva, hand swabs or swabs for gunshot residue. Analyses. External examination. The forensic autopsy consists of an external examination and an internal examination. External examination, broad overview of the condition of the body and the clothing, classifying the injuries. This includes distinguishing between different types of wounds, such as a stab wound versus a gunshot wound. Internal examination. Dissecting the human body generally entails removing all internal organs through a Y-shaped incision beginning at the top of each shoulder and extending down the pubic bone. Performing the internal examination entails weighing, dissecting, and sectioning each organ of the body. Toxicology. The internal examination is also where toxicological specimens are taken. These include samples of blood, stomach content, bile, and urine. Blood is often routinely tested to determine the presence and levels of alcohol and drugs. Some drugs redistribute or re-enter the blood after death and thus may complicate the interpretation of post-mortem blood levels of these drugs. Cause of death. A primary objective of the autopsy is to determine the cause of death. A common cause of death can be from blunt force injury, sharp force injury, asphyxiation, gunshot wounds, substance abuse. Blunt force injuries are caused from a non-sharpened object, such as a bat or pipe. A blunt force injury can abrade tissue, forming a laceration, or can cause a contusion arising from bleeding from tiny ruptured blood vessels within and beneath the skin. For example, here is a contusion or bruising of the skin from a blunt force injury. Sharp force injuries occur from weapons with sharp edges, such as knives or blades. These weapons are capable of cutting or stabbing. The sharp force cases cases, it is particularly important to examine the victim for defensive wounds. Asphyxiation encompasses a variety of conditions that involve interference with the intake of oxygen. For example, hanging, strangulation, death at a fire scene is caused primarily by the extremely toxic gas carbon monoxide. Gunshot wounds originate from projectiles fired by a firearm. The distance of a weapon was fired from a target is one of the most important factors in characterizing a gunshot wound. Deaths as of a result of substance abuse are common cases. Because of this, a forensic pathologist will routinely order toxicological tests for the presence of drugs in nearly all investigations. Drug abuse can directly cause death, or it can cause complications that can serve as a contributing factor to death. The manner of death relates to the circumstances that lead to the fatal result. The manner in which death occurred is classified in death certificates as one of 5 categories: homicide, non-accidental death resulting from grossly negligent, reckless, or intentional acts of another person; suicide, an individual taking his or her own life; accidental, no intent to cause harm through gross negligence or on the part of a perpetrator or the victim; natural, death from disease, environmental abuse, or age; undetermined, a rational classification cannot be established. Estimating time of death. A pathologist may never give an exact time of death. However, there are many characteristics that an examiner can analyze in order to arrive at an approximate time of death. Algor mortis is the process in which a body adjusts to equalize with the environmental temperature. Generally, the body loses heat by about 1 to 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit per hour until the body reaches the environmental temperature, but this can be affected by factors such as body size, clothing, etc. Livor mortis results from the settling of blood in areas of the body closest to the ground. This process begins 20 minutes to 3 hours after death and continues up to 16 hours. Different lividity patterns in a body may indicate that the body was moved after death but before livor mortis had fully fixed. Oof. Rigor mortis results in the shortening of muscle tissue and the stiffening of body parts in the position of death. Typically occurs within the first day and disappears within 36 hours. Estimating time of death. A forensic pathologist can determine the amount of potassium in the vitreous humor and use it to approximate the time of death. Stomach contents may reveal the deceased's last meal. The extent of digestion can help with determining the time of death. Eventually, decomposition will set in, and the preceding methods of determining time of death are no longer of any use. Recovering and processing remains. Sites where human remains are found must be treated as a crime scene. These scenes must be secured and thoroughly searched to locate all bones if they are scattered, or other aspects of evidence such as footwear impressions or discarded items. All aspects of evidence must be documented and collected. Forensic anthropology is concerned primarily with the evidence and examination of human skeletal remains. Examining bones may reveal the individual's sex, approximate age, race, and possible skeletal injury. Sex can be determined by the size and shape of various skeletal features, especially those in the pelvis and skull. Possible racial ancestry can be assessed by the appearance of various cranial features. Frontal shot of a female pelvis and hip, showing the wide circular nature of the pelvis opening and the short, wide nature of the sacrum, while the human male pelvis looking like so. Male left and female right human skulls, showing male skulls larger size and more pronounced brow bone. How menacing. The height of a victim when alive can be estimated by measuring the long bones of the skeleton. The general age of the victim may be estimated by changes in bone structure, bone fusion, and dental development. A forensic anthropologist may also help create facial reconstructions to identify skeletal remains. Forensic entomology. Forensic entomology is the study of insects and their relation to a criminal investigation, commonly used to estimate the time of death. By determining the most developed stage of fly found on a body, entomologists can approximate the post-mortem interval, PMI. The sequence of arrival of different insect species can also be used to estimate PMI. The most common and important is the blowfly, recognized by its green and blue color. Blowfly eggs are laid in human remains and ultimately hatch into maggots, or fly larvae, which consume human tissues and organs. Forensic entomologists can approximate how long a body has been left exposed by examining the stage of development of the fly larvae. Here we have the life cycle from egg deposition to adult fly emergence. The cycle is representative of any one of nearly 90 species of blowflies in North America. Going from egg, larval stages 1, 2, 3, 3 after feeding, and then late stage puparium, early, and eclosion adult fly emerging. OV position. These determinations are not always straightforward. The time required for stage development is affected by environmental influences such as geographical location, climate, weather conditions, and the presence of drugs. If possible, all entomological insect evidence should be collected by a forensic entomologist expert who will take temperature readings and collect specimens from every area in which they are found. In any case, around the 13.5-minute mark. Glad to have you all for this latest chapter in forensic science. Let's see you in the next one. Subscribe and peace.